Okay, good afternoon, guys. Big guy, bad voice. I'm Al Mullen with DAV Engineering. I'm the owner, the authorized manufacturer's rep for J&S for New England. I've been doing about 7 to 8 years J&S. Before that, I actually did manufacture gate valves. I was part of the company that got sold to his company on some gate valves. We were ARD and manufacturer of check valves. So I've been on both sides, so I've seen the process from castings to the sales. A little background about J&S. They're out of Houston, Texas. They are American made, ARA, but they do have foundries. They have foundries in America and 2 offshore. They've started 12 years ago, and since basically I've been able to see them grow. They're about $20 million right now, and their facility is almost looks like a full city block. It's incredible. Nothing's in order. The first few pages, if you want to open this up, I kind of gave you, what I was going to talk about, so I'll try to follow that a little bit. And again, I'm sure all you guys are familiar with, with gate valves. You've seen them everywhere, I'm sure. First couple pages is about J&S. You'll see their facility. This is a Dallas area, and this is the main offices in Houston. And again, behind it is all machines and storage and production. Again, they make all types of gate valves. They do make the rubber check valves, this Wastop, which is inline check valves, and butterflies. So they've expanded their product line. Give you an idea of the type of gate valves they make. This is on the back page of your catalog too, but they do make every form of gate valve. From the flange, the MJ tapping. They'll even have the push-on or tighten joint. And as the front cover of that, you can see that's a 3-inch valve versus a 72-inch valve. The 72-inch valve, most of us can actually stand in the center of that. Right now they're being asked to do something that hasn't been done yet. They're actually being asked to design a 96-inch gate valve, which is pretty, I don't know, almost have to cut it in half and ship it on two trucks. It's going to be so big. As far as the gate valve itself, and I apologize, I'm all over the place. I'm getting back into it. This page is basically what the valve. Obviously this is a non-rising stem. You guys have OS&Y, which is a rising stem. 3 10-inch J&S OS&Y rising stem gate valves. Here's your Kennedy Clow M&H check valves. One's under a pressure test now in the middle. That's actually operating. They're open. There's the stems up. And there's your check valve lever up. For you guys, obviously stem up, it's open, stem down, it's closed. Pretty basic. Again, the gate valve, isolation valve, right after check valves. So, when maintenance is performed or you have to have an emergency shutdown, that valve closes. And this one is bubble tight because of the resilient wedge. Some quick features, obviously, you have the body, and I'm going to get into that a little bit, what J&S has done with the body. There's 2 forms, and our engineer will tell you he understands the standards and specifications, but there's 515 and 509 AWWA standards for gate valves. 509 is the older thick wall ductile iron casting. The 515 is the thinner wall ductile. Because of ductile versus cast, they both rate for 250. What J&S decided to do 10 years ago was not be a me too, but for them to make it, they had to stand out. So what they did is they actually qualify for both standards. They have a 509 thick wall ductile iron valve. So basically, what you guys have on site is a very heavy duty valve. It's a 509 pattern poured and pure ductile. Again, they went the next step, which is now part of the standard, but you have a 304 stainless steel stem. You guys, guys who've been around, you see all the bronze stems. Now, this one, you know, a 14 or 12-inch stem, as you see out there, even at those 10-inch that are out there, you guys aren't bending that stem. You can try, and you know, $50 for the first guy that can bend it. But again, you have the corrosive protection of stainless and the extra torque and that. And again, you'll see the encapsulated wedge. It's fully encapsulated around a ductile iron disc. And it's EPDM, so they've gone to the new, you know, EPDM standard rubber and standardizing that. All your O-rings are EPDM. And as you see, the drawing you have, this is like the drawing that was in your submittal package. Again, you can see your rising stem, and there's the sizes that are on the site here, 610s and 14s. Exactly right. Again, it's rated to 250. We have actually rated that valve and pressurized that to 400. So we've actually standardized, we've actually passed a 350 PSI spec because they needed it for a really high pressure. And it worked, you know, because of the thicker wall and the ductile. Part of this, in the next few pages, you don't have chain wheels. For some reason, I thought you might. But just to give you an idea of what type of animal you guys have, just go to the quick valve comparison. This is the J&S versus just some other major brands. You know, there's Mueller American Flow Control. I kept him out of it because they make a good valve. You like that, huh?
Thanks for the valve.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now, if you guys look at this valve, just you look at this and you say, okay, guys, you put a 6-inch valve with two 4-inch, right? Those are 4-inch valves. So when I'm telling you, you can see that just how the thickness and the size versus the N1, which there's your 515 thin wall ductile. Okay, they didn't just want to meet the standard, the minimum standard for a valve. They wanted to exceed it. Next page, you can see the components. There's your bonnet. The reason I wanted to show you guys this, I mean, you can see the breakdown of parts, but look at the size of the bonnet, and especially to the left. What seals the valve? The O-rings. Look at the size of that O-ring they have compared to the competition. Again, you got the two stems, and the reason there's the next stem one, I just wanted to show you guys something in the industry. You see the stainless steel? There's your triple O-rings. Something interesting on the bronze stem, you see the middle one, the Mueller? They actually machine a break point. Because they'd rather have you guys, when you over torque it or something goes wrong, to break the stem above it. So again, the J&S philosophy is, we don't want you breaking stems. You know, we're not in for the spare parts. So there's your stainless 304 stem. I didn't realize that until I went to a training class about 5 years ago, and they had the actual stems in hand and said, see the groove machine? It's pretty wild. Your stem nuts, again, you can see the size and the quality of that bronze stem nut on top. And I did include, I mean, you know, there's your compliances. Why I put them in, you guys really don't need to know, but here's your coating. If you ever have, you know, anything about the fusion bonded epoxy, you know, there's their UL and their AWWA certificates. But again, like you said, like the check valve, this is a basic open-close isolation valve. Getting into, you know, we're kind of getting into what you guys, you know already, probably, or want to know, and I'm guessing know already, the operation and maintenance. You know, these valves, we're always going to say the standard answer is twice a year. We want you to operate them. And the reason is, you know what? Since I'm hearing what's coming through this line, it's a slurry line, you might want to, if you have critical isolation valves, you might want to put on a plan to do every 3 months, just open and close that. You know, and when you do that, again, it's a bubble tight seat, so it's rubber. Rubber compresses, has memory. So basically, when you close that, when you say it's 10 turns to close, you turn it, you got to give it that little extra to compress the rubber. So each time, you know, you press it. All the PSIs coming through are what the first crack and the last crack open and closed. So if you're having slurry, What I want you guys to watch for is what can happen here. It rocks or something, because that's rubber, eventually may have a little wear path. It takes a pretty big, kind of tear or that, for that not to compress down, but that's what you guys are gonna be watching for. These, I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit. I mean, if you look at this operation manual, I mean, a lot of this is inspection and maintenance. Of course, you guys are, when you first get a valve, you're looking for chips or anything damaged. The next page, this is the basic O&M stuff. The next few pages, unloading, never put a fork through the valve. If you're gonna store it, always in general for all valves, store them in the closed position. Makes sense, obviously you don't want anything getting in. What I recommend, I don't know if there's any vibrations, but once a year, check the bolt tightness. The contractor's first thing he does when he installs them, before he puts them in, he makes sure every bolt is tightened in that star pattern and that.
Basically, when you're doing a tie, you want to crisscross.
Absolutely.
You want to go in a circle, you want to...
Absolutely, that's the general thumb for everything. Again, I don't know if you guys, every time you exercise a valve, somebody should have a log and a record that it was done. Excellent. And that helps the manufacturer, because if you ever have anything that needs to be, something happens, you have a record and we can speculate on what needs to be done. Again, preventative maintenance. This is an OS&Y. There's no bevel or spur gear, so there's no grease that needs to be maybe lubricated once a year. And there again, they're saying once every 6 months to open and close the valve. What I would recommend, again, because we're talking about that, all the PSI is funneling when you first crack it in that one area. When you guys operate the valve, crack it, put it down, crack it a little more, put it down, and then open it. The reason I want you to do that, if any sediment gets built in, that should flush it out and clean the inside of the valve. If you get something, two things that can happen to you guys, it's either the sediment is going to build up around the wedge and you might not be able to close it. If it's up in the air and you got a lot of bottom, a slow moving and it hangs on the bottom and you might not crunch it. Or the only other leak path is out the bonnet. That's where those O-rings are. You guys have, on OS&Ys, if you want to go back to that drawing, you guys have a packing gland with your basic packing material. If you ever get a leak out of that, the first thing you do is tighten those down. If it doesn't stop it, you always get more packing, put it in there, and tighten it down. So that's for what you guys are looking for. Your primary two things is leaks. Leaks are not closing all the way, right? Basically, those are the troubleshooting methods, which is on these last 2 pages. Again, what they're saying is about the receipts, the stem with the O-rings, and then that's your packing with the OS&Y, tightening them down. Sorry, I jump around. I just kind of, every class will be different, to be honest with you. See, the over-torquing, part of this, that 5.7 is something like 200 foot-pounds or 250, right? If you're using a machine, you guys are hand wheel operated, you're never going to put that much torque on it to over-torque it and bend the stem. Anything else on that? Yeah, lack of periodic, yeah. Again, with the packing gland, you can replace that under pressure. Anytime you work, for safety, depressurize the line. No loose clothing to get caught. The common sense, like you said, the common sense stuff. But depressurize the line. If you have to scrape away sediment off the wedge and that can be done. And again, like Kennedy, J&S has probably over, I'm going to guess over 3 million on the shelf. They stock up to 48 inch. So if you ever need an O-ring set, a gasket, the O-ring gasket, even a new wedge, it would probably be there the next day. you call up and we'll, if, you know, depending how critical it is, it's overnight. You know, there's my information. It's on everything. There's a log, like you said, in the O&M manual that's on site to call. Changing a wedge if it ever ripped is extremely, yeah, everybody's nodding their head, yeah. Basically, you just take off the bonnet, the stem nut screws out, and there's your stem with the wedge, it unscrews, you can put the new wedge on. Well, what I would do, and J&S would send you new internals. So you're gonna get a new stem wedge, you pop it in, new O-rings, you basically have a brand new valve. So that way you can take, you know, without taking the valve out of the line, you can repair it. Yeah, under the half hour we were telling you guys. But any general questions? I mean, I said I know these are basic valves. It's open, close, isolation, and what to do if they're not closing. You know, and one other just from experience, he's also he's a you know gate valve guy. That's 95% of his business with the hydrants. You can over tighten a packing gland. Where if you have real trouble opening and closing the valve, the packing gland those bolts may be too tight.
We put a cheetah bar on the inside there and
Yeah, exactly. Get the 6-foot cheater bar and try to bend the stop.
crank it.
So you guys have been around a while. I knew that. But you know, I mean, I've seen that where you've seen that too. Where
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing, excuse me for just saying, at the very top, guys, I will tell you 90% of the country opens to the left, and that is counterclockwise. And you know that because there is an arrow on the wheel that points to the left. And this may sound stupid, but if you've ever done any sailing where you've got red right return,